Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. Great to be on with you guys.
Well, I wanted to know if you could tell us, because we heard that DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyron Smith, Trayvon Diggs are all like trending in the right direction as if they will play on Sunday. Do you think that will be the case? And does that bring a smile to your face this morning?
Well, I'm smiling. And
Nice.
so, yes, that's the case. That's my understanding. We all know that we do have several days here before kickoff, but and it's subject to that. But it's certainly looking like we're going to have them available. But it can be a game-time decision, but it's looking that way. They're practicing.
How important is 77 to this team, Jerry?
Well, I just think when you've got a guy that is considered one of the very best, I mean, in a less than a handful of offensive linemen, and it's such a critical position, your left tackle, and then you have to make do, which means shuffling around at other positions a lot of times. It's a critical spot, and so he obviously makes a huge difference. He's a rare football player at a very big-time position for the Dallas Cowboys. It's a big difference.
Jerry, we like to play GM/owner on our show a lot. I think all radio guys do and all sports fans do, and we like to put our own expectations on players as if we were that guy. But you are that guy. You are the GM and owner, and so one of the hot topics with us is DeMarcus Lawrence and that he gets paid to get sacks. And I wonder, from your perspective, when you pay him, is that at your expectation? Is that he has to get sacks?
Well, first of all, which was more than I could even think about almost pronouncing or saying, but I spent more to be the general manager than anybody ever has in the history of mankind. And so I sure empathize with you relative to having some fun doing this. I've been living a dream for the last 30-something years, getting to do what I do every day, and that's why I just have to say to anybody, I'm the luckiest guy there is. So that's good. Number two, let's really talk about the main part of the question, and that's DeMarcus Lawrence. Certainly, you want the stat potentially associated with the player. But more often than not, it's what that player brings as talents to the offense. When you see offensive teams really have to account for a player, then he's very valuable. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily relate in a direct sack. That doesn't mean that's the case here so far this year. But what he brings, he's relentless. He's not only talented, he's not only physically, he's just physically imposing to an offensive plan, but he's just never quits. And that's so hard to work against. And what he does relative to his teammates, not only the ones out there on the field with him, but off the field, that kind of energy, that kind of talent, that kind of heart, all of that, that's where the dollars are spent, not necessarily on the number of sacks.
Well, Jerry, on the other side, we just talked about Tyron Smith, and he could have a huge responsibility. Maybe Cleveland moves Myles Garrett to the other side. But how nervous are you facing a guy like Myles Garrett, one of the best in the game at disrupting a quarterback's timing and getting to him and sacking him?
Yeah, he's the word with him is he's the best. And he came out that way, performed that way early in college. He came out that way as the number one draft pick, and he's been true to form since he got in the NFL. And like I say, the greatest compliment you can have is to have a defense having to work, maybe even adjust their game plan for a player of that caliber. And he's that kind of player.
And then the guy next to Tyron at times, Connor Williams. I'm not Jerry, I know you're an expert on offensive line play because that's what you did. And there's guys that watch the All-22 film now that are former scouts or in the media and stuff like that, and they say at times yes, the offensive tackles have been backups and struggled, but at times maybe the guy struggling the most on the Cowboys offensive line is Connor Williams. Can you kind of discuss how you feel Connor Williams is playing this year?
His greatest traits are his athleticism. He's very athletic, and he really is progress. And I really mean this. He is really getting better and better and better at keeping, if you will, balance, the nuances of playing guard. He played tackle when he was at Texas, but he was an inordinately athletic offensive lineman. We're going to take advantage of that, have taken advantage of it, and will continue. He's getting better.
Was there, since he did play so much tackle at Texas, how much, if any, discussion was to bouncing him out at tackle when obviously there's been some injury concerns there?
Yeah, it's always a consideration. Position flex in that offensive line. When you've got those good players, I'm going to be maybe the greatest, Larry Allen. Boy, you could pop him out there, and he just would have been an all-pro. Matter of fact, that's really why we paid him earlier, and to use that, not really. He was just probably the best football player we had on the field most of the time. But his position flex, and he would have been all-pro at left tackle. He'd have been all-pro at whatever he wanted to play. We got so used to having him, and then we got Flozell Adams when I went to left tackle. But having said that, this day and time, it's important if you've got base, you can basically really block it up in the middle. That becomes really important, to say the very least. And so that's the big issue here, is to keep that thing blocked up in the middle so Dak's got the time to step up in the pocket.
The Jerry Jones Show, Hall of Famer Jerry Jones joining us right now on the KNC Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan. And Jerry, have any players expressed any concerns about what's happening with the Titans and going on there, and how do you think the league's handling that right now?
Well, I am really proud of what we're doing as a league. That's an understatement. But what is going to be very, very interesting to see is how we respond when we have an outbreak. That's going to be the big test. And I think we're going to do well. We've got a lot of flexibility. We've really spent a lot of time planning for this, and we can get the games in, so to speak, or ultimately, in the case of the Titans and the Vikings, we postpone, but we'll have that accounted for pretty quick in our schedule. All of those things are out ahead of us. I'm more interested in seeing how we respond, how we react, our reaction to outbreaks of any nature, whether they be smaller groups or even a larger group. That'll be a good exercise for us. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to be able to handle it. By the way, while we're talking about that, I want to express my sensitivity and concern for the president. But again, no one in the world has the ability to handle this COVID any better than the office of President of the United States. I'm very confident that he'll be able to continue governing, and really, I'm sure that he has anticipated this. Knowing him, he's the hardest worker you've ever seen. Knowing him, he'll be able to go right on through this and hopefully not miss a beat.
Have you personally been concerned at all or had any coronavirus scares of your own? Because you and the president are not too far apart in age. And then also, have you been surprised at how well the sports have been able to continue despite some of these outbreaks in the variety of sports?
Well, I think it just shows a resolve to do it and do it safely. That's the big thing, safely. And I'm not surprised that we have been able to move this thing along. We'll approach 25,000 if it's not 25,000 out here Sunday at our ball game. And so that will lead the NFL in attendance when we do that. And we're doing that, in my mind, very safe and very prudent and very adhering to all the conventions that need to be adhered to, and going to have a great fan experience out there. And from my perspective, it's mask up. I use a lot of that hand lotion. Do keep my distance. And certainly I've had to alter. Boy, you don't know. You do know. I'm telling you that I miss being able to be involved in more of close-in team stuff, more interaction with players during practice or around the football team, certainly when we travel away. And so I miss all of that, but everybody understands you're having to adjust for this. But I think if we all do this and stay positive, the main thing that I'm interested in doing is I don't have time to have a bad time. I want to stay active and stay involved.
If it turns out for whatever reason, through investigation or whatever, the Titans violated protocol and that's how they got these tests, do you think the NFL will punish them, and do you think the NFL should punish them?
Well, we want to put a lot of discipline in these protocols. And in this particular case, when I say the word punish, I have a little problem with that over catching something that makes you ill. Just the nature of it. On the other hand, to emphasize bright lines, to emphasize discipline, to emphasize consciousness, have your eye on the ball, those kinds of things, and what it means for everybody else as well, then this does call for big-time discipline. You can't let somebody go up and pull the red cord when they're flying on an airplane. You can't just let somebody open the emergency door. There's got to be some heavy penalties for that, because that involves the lives of a lot of people. Well, we've got to have discipline. I understand the discipline, and it's there for a reason. And forgetting is not good enough. Not remembering, or this for that. It's just not good enough. Are we all perfect in how we're adhering to this? Of course we're not. But being on everybody's mind, this is going to make a difference. And I think it's made a difference in the NFL, the discipline.
Jerry, back to the game, and then also kind of your role. You're usually around the team a lot, and you probably have a good sense going into each game, the confidence of your team. I was wondering the confidence of the defense. I don't know how much you're around the team this year, but the team really struggled the last 2 weeks defensively. Can you give us an idea of how you feel your team is confidence-wise going into this game defensively?
Well, yes, and I am around the team a lot. I'm just around from distance.
Okay.
I watch the practices. I see them. And I physically see the practices, so I am around a lot, and I do see confidence, if that's it. Mike McCarthy is an outstanding coach. He breeds confidence. He breeds football individual confidence, so to speak, to belabor the point. But so yes, I think we're confident. I think we realize how we could have won those two games that we lost. We were fortunate to win the one we won, but that's the point. We played some good quarterbacks, we played some good teams. We're going to play some good quarterbacks and some more good teams. But the key thing is this is, relatively speaking, a young team, I think, and we've got a chance to get better. And that is the key. How we're doing when we hit November and December is going to be the telltale time.
We appreciate it every single week, Jerry, and obviously, all we got to say is let's go get that W on Sunday.
Well, that's good, and we'll see you at the stadium.